Stepping into a leadership role at this time of crisis requires more strength and capability more than ever. People are relying on the success of this role and the productivity of it. And whoever gets the title of Dearborn Mayor must carry the weight of their city and a city they call home. Joining me tonight, State Representative Abdullah Hammoud, who is running for Dearborn Mayor. If he gets elected, he will be replacing the current mayor, O'Reilly, and he will be the first Arab American and first Muslim to lead the city of Dearborn. Welcome to the show, Abdullah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. And I'd like to welcome our viewers. And if you have questions for Abdullah Hammoud, please feel free to put the questions in the comment box. First of all, I'd like to start with you. You have served in the Michigan House of Representatives from the 15th District since 2017. What made you decide to run for Dearborn Mayor?
You know, at the core, Dearborn is home and Dearborn is family. It's the family that's given me everything that I know. I'm a product of our school system, a product of our college or university. And when I had conversations with family and my wife about where we can be most impactful, we believed it was at the helm of the city. Over the last year, through the pandemic, we've seen just how important it is to have strong leadership, strong elected leadership, and none more important than that at our local level. And so through much conversation and through thinking about wanting to give back to the city in the most direct way, this was a decision that we led to, and we're excited to share our ideas, to have conversations with residents, to learn, to grow, because ultimately it's not just about being mayor, it's about building a team at the city that's prepared and ready to tackle the issues that we're facing each and every single day.
That's great. Let's talk about this moment in time. This is a very unique and different time than the city has ever faced, and many issues need to be tackled, correct? And I'd like to talk about the pandemic, and the next mayor will be picking up whatever we happen to be in January 1st of next year. So what is which part of the vaccination plan should be improved the most? And if you are the mayor right now, what would you do differently?
Yeah, great. Thank you for that question. For those who are not aware with what I did before assuming elected office, I'm actually an epidemiologist by training. And so I worked in the public health sector for many years, working at various health systems, serving with the United Nations overseas. And so I think it provides me with a unique insight amongst all those who are vying to be the mayor of our city. As a public health professional, there are a few things that I would have done differently. I think very early on, we saw that Dearborn, right outside of Detroit, had the highest number of cases proportionally speaking, even at times having a higher case rate than that of the city of Detroit that had 6 times the population. So some of the things I would have done differently very early on would have been to communicate and do a multi-mode messaging campaign, educating our residents in the language that they understand about the importance of safe social distancing, the importance of mask wearing, the importance of not attending large gatherings. Additionally, some of the things that we did do, we actually, in March, we found out about the first case in the state of Michigan. Before that first case hit, when we heard about coronavirus at the state and China, my office drafted legislation that eliminated the out-of-pocket costs that people would pay to receive testing or treatment. And that was adopted administratively through agreement with all the insurance companies, through support of the governor's office and some stakeholders. So that was something we accomplished right away. Secondly, we sent a mailer to about 15,000 households in the city of Dearborn before anybody else communicated with them. We provided a magnet with helpful phone numbers. We also provided this in Arabic and English on our social media. We immediately tried giving people information that they need. And I think that was what we needed to do more of very early on. That's how we could have prevented the higher uptick of cases that we saw in Dearborn. But hopefully, it's a lesson learned, and we can do a better job moving forward.
Yeah, that's great, and it's so important, of course, for the public to do their work, by wearing mask and doing the social distancing and all that. I want to talk about the economy and small businesses here, and the effect of the pandemic on our local economy is huge. We have unemployment rate is very high. We have the small businesses are suffering, although they're getting help and funds. But at the same time, it does not undermine the severity of the situation. So what is your plan if you get elected for maybe a faster economic recovery?
I think it's continuing with the work that we've done in Lansing very early on when the pandemic first hit. As the policy chair for the House Democrats in Lansing, I created the policy agenda that we advocated for. And amongst that agenda was advocating for more resources for the hardest hit businesses. And to date, we've helped bring down over $200 million to small businesses. More than that, we tried providing them with all the assistance that they may have needed, and maybe their employees who need to apply for unemployment. And our office has handled nearly 1,500 cases for those who need unemployment assistance. At the mayor's level, what we can do is work with our local DDAs to ensure that small businesses have the resources that they need to continually encourage and supporting small businesses. As those of us who are from Dearborn know how much small businesses are there for us when it comes down to an event where they're donating or sponsoring. And I think now more than ever, we need to double down on that effort and really show how supportive we are of them. And so it's leading by example, but it's also trying to capture as many dollars as we can from Wayne County and from the state and giving them to the businesses that have been most impacted.
We have a great advantage to our city because of its strategic location.
Correct.
What are some of the steps that you might do to maybe ensure a faster economic, not faster economic recovery? It's actually to take our city into a firmer financial footing.
It's a great question. Dearborn is uniquely positioned. We have the longest border with the city of Detroit. We're 10 to 15 minutes, as everyone says, away from the airport, from downtown, from Southfield, from from all the surrounding major highways and major downtown districts. And so that provides us a unique positioning. We heard recently that Ford has announcements for kind of restructuring and selling some properties within Dearborn. And although Ford is, Dearborn is home to Ford, and we're so excited to have them here, we want to continue to work with them. I think this provides us, if we can look at it as new opportunities. We need a mayor who will be on the offensive in recruiting corporations to relocate to Dearborn, providing our families and our working people with jobs. We need a mayor who is going to try to, really invest in the entrepreneurial spirit that we see amongst our residents, making sure that our ordinances are easy to navigate, making sure that resources are available so that we can spark this new generation of small businesses and supporting the small businesses that we have so that they can expand and thrive. And so there's multiple things that we can do, but it all starts really at the helm of the city, making sure we have a mayor that really has the open sign on, telling individuals we're open for business. We want businesses to come here, and we want more than anything our current businesses to survive, and we're ready to work with them to tackle the issues that they're facing.
And we hope so as well. As far as leading the city into an innovative future, and live, work, play is a big factor in all major markets. So there has been a greater desire to be a part of urban setting, where you can walk to work, where you can walk around the city. So what is your master plan, for a more live work play atmosphere similar to what we see in other municipalities?
That's a great question. I think one of the things we have to take into account is COVID has really shifted this idea of commuting to work or living close to work. For many employees, they might never go to work ever again. Their work might permanently be from home, and that presents a few obstacles. For example, we know that many people commuted to the city of Dearborn to come to work. And when they commuted here, it was during their lunchtime or after work or before work that they spent some of their dollars here. That is going to change. we now have to make the case and argument for people to why you need to move to Dearborn. And that all starts with making sure we have a strong public school system. We have a safe community. We have a community with many small businesses that people don't need to travel far to continually invest their dollars here. And so, as a person who is newlywed, who knows what younger families are looking for to attract to our community, that's what we're going to put at the forefront. We're going to work in a much more coordinated fashion. And there are great examples of how we do this across the country that we can replicate right here in Dearborn, how we work together to strengthen all these areas in our city so that people come here, they spend their dollars here, they live here. And I want to add one more thing. For the last 4 years, we've been trying to improve the environment, because the environment for many of our children, for many of our families, it fuels their asthma and not their imagination. And that's something that we need to change. We need to continually work on improving the environment, because if you improve the environmental outcomes, you're improving the healthcare outcomes, you're improving the economic outcomes. And that's what we need. We need good public health policy at the forefront. And in turn, good public health policy is good environmental policy, it's good economic policy, and it's good for our community.
You've tackled environmental issues, as a state legislator, and you've worked. Actually, you did the ordinance, for southwest of Dearborn. Sorry, okay, to decrease the pollution. But if you get elected as a mayor, how would you contribute to the environment?
Many of the battles that we faced on the environmental front and many of the successes and achievements we've had nothing to do with me being a state representative. For example, there was a permit that was requested by a local energy plant. They wanted to add over 1,000 new tons of pollution. There was no legislation we could have passed at that time that would have prevented that. So what did we do? We organized an event and got over 200 people to attend a community town hall. We wrote op-eds in newspapers. We used social media. We started a petition. We made so much noise that Canadian officials across the border chimed in support of our movement and our mission. And ultimately, the company called us and said, we are withdrawing the permit. They had too big of a blow in the media's eyes, too big of a public PR problem, and they withdrew that permit. That was a win. Secondly, there was another time where a local factory tried outsourcing jobs, good paying union jobs, away from our community members to people who live in Ohio and Kentucky. We organized a press conference at a community meeting. We crashed our community meeting with over 150 of our union sisters and brothers and our community residents. Ultimately, that company agreed to sit back down at the negotiating table, and they agreed to a new union contract employing our working families in the city. And most recently, we began talking to another factory that pulled a permit to increase emissions. And after 4 months of conversations, working with them and educating them on why we believe they do not need to increase emissions, they withdrew that permit. All of these successes and accomplishments had nothing to do with it being a state representative. It had to do with being engaged and having a level of tenacity that's been unmatched. And at City Hall, we will do just that. We can continually advocate for more ordinances. We passed one, but it's not enough. It's a reactive measure. We actually propose something a little bit stronger, and that's what we'd like to see actually pass, something much more proactive, and to actually have a task force working with these companies, working with the residents in the South End and throughout our city. Because it's important to know, although the South End has a higher asthma rate and much worse air quality, air has no boundaries. Exactly. And for us, we have to think, if there's a child in our community that's being poisoned, it does not matter where they live. That's all our child, and we all have to invest in their betterment.
Absolutely. And I would like to tackle with you the property taxes in Dearborn. And every candidate during election promises, lower taxes. So how can you help with the property taxes, that high number? And, Dearborn is not affordable when it comes to property taxes, and it's on everybody's mind. So how can you ease that burden? And at the same time, how can you welcome more people into the city without the fear of the high property taxes?
This issue of property taxes it's been very interesting to learn more about. And it's because you have really two types of residents in the city. You have those that have been living in their homes for a very long time. And so for them, property taxes might not be the number one priority because their taxes have never been uncapped. And so their taxes have been increasing very slowly over the years. And then you have new families, such as myself, who just bought a home and the tax is uncapped and taxes increases dramatically. And if you want to attract new families, as I said earlier, we have to have something that's affordable. You have to make the economic case for why Dearborn is a better place to live than Canton or Livonia, because we've been losing many people there.
We want to attract millennials as well.
Exactly, correct. And so we are actually, I won't share the full details yet because we're finalizing them, but we're going to put out a very detailed plan on how we can lower property taxes within our first term in elected office. And it has to deal with right-sizing the budget. It has to deal with thinking outside the box and thinking of new ways to bring in revenue. It has to deal with how we expand our base of how we collect property taxes, as opposed to always increasing the millages. And lastly, I know people always say the mayor can only control, or the city only looks at the city's portion of the tax bill. However, when you cut your winter check or your summer's taxes check, you're cutting the whole sum. Nobody's saying, oh, I'm cutting $300 to the city, $300 to the schools, and $300 to the county. And so we need to come together regionally. All these stakeholders need to come together, and we need to put forth a visible plan that we can all agree on for the long-term decision making on our property taxes. And I think that's something we have not done yet, and that's something that we will do if successful during this election.
We sure hope so. And I want to talk to you about the law enforcement and how can you improve the accountability of police.
You know, public safety is an issue that is top of mind. We have seen the protests over the years, and I'm 100% transparent in saying I marched in the streets with our sisters and brothers and the movements advocating for racial justice. You know, and at the same time, I say that to say, even if you advocate and want to see a better public safety model, it doesn't mean that you hate police officers. I respect the job that they do, and I know it's difficult. And so the proposal we're putting forth is we want a better public safety model that works better for our residents and our first responders. And I'll begin there. For our residents, some of the things that we can do, there are models, again, that have proven to be successful across this country. One of those is a mental health response team.
Yes.
Actually having a team within the the police department that is 100% dedicated to taking the calls, the mental health related calls. Now, it might not be 100% of mental health calls because some of those can be dangerous, but there is a portion of cases that mental health professionals can tackle. And I apologize if you hear, that's my dog Kusa, so I apologize about that. Secondly, on mental health, currently our police officers have a peer-to-peer support system. They lean on their team members for mental health supports for themselves and for their families. And so one of the things we actually want to do is build on that, build on this idea of how we provide our officers with mental health support for themselves and for their family, because it's a very difficult job. And that means bringing in professionals to assist them with handling what they're seeing and doing on a day-to-day job.
Will you be looking more into implicit bias training and police force?
Yes, I think, you know, and I think you might be pointing out to some of the data that has emerged and some of the statistics that have emerged. One of the things we're going to be putting forward is actually a public health task force. And on this task force, we want a data specialist, a statistician. We'd like a public defender. We'd like a retired police officer who was a line level union member. We want members of the community, nonprofit members, as well as mental health professionals, and collectively to dig into this data, to increase the transparency we have, really flesh out what it is that we're seeing, and actually hold us accountable as a city, as a department, and see how we can improve. I've had many conversations, not only with the activists and with residents, but also with police officers. And I think these ideas are something that we can all coalesce and agree on. We can do better. We don't want our city to be pointed at as a bad actor. If we see the data marks out there saying that, hey, there's a red flag going on here in Dearborn, we need to explore it. We need to hold ourselves accountable because we want to be the best that we can be.
So one more question about law enforcement, and we have to take a break. What about trends that shape law enforcement and public policy? Will you be looking into that?
Can you elaborate?
About law and public policy. How can you, like, there are trends, new trends. We are in 2021. Are you looking into those trends?
Yes, 100%. So again, the Public Health Task Force One of the roles of the Public Health Task Force will also be to see what is the best case, who is the golden standard across the country. Dearborn does a great job on several areas, but where can we improve? Who does it better? Let's learn. Let's bring those practices back to our city because we want to be the best. We never want anyone to have an issue in Dearborn. And we want all of our residents, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, country of origin, to feel safe in our community. And it begins with our public safety departments.
Great. And we will be right back with State Representative Abdullah Hammoud. Welcome back. I'm still with State Representative Abdullah Hammoud. Welcome, Abdullah, again.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I want to ask you about education. And, you know, now all students will return to school in blended learning on March 1st. And how can we ensure that our kids are getting the most out of this whole school experience and are not falling behind?
Yeah, you know, if there's anything I've learned as it pertains to education as a product of our public schools is really lean on those who are doing job, our educators, our teachers. They're the ones at the front lines. They're the ones who have to do this job in one of the most difficult environments. And so for me, as a candidate for office, as somebody who currently is in office, I lean on the experts and I ask them, what is it that we can do to help you do your jobs better? Additionally, it's also working with the parents at home. We know that it's also very stressful for many working parents who also have their children on Zooms or have to, have that stress about, are they going to be exposed to COVID while at school? Are they going to bring COVID back to the household if you live with your parents or your grandparents, increasing the risk? And so another element to this is making sure that our schools are prepared, that they have the right adequate PPE, our teachers are vaccinated, and educating our community members on the importance of vaccination. We know our children fall later in the priority list, but we want to make sure that our parents and grandparents are getting vaccinated as it becomes available to them. And again, leaning on the teachers for what it is that they need, how we can support them. You know, one of the things we did in Lansing was we actually passed a very small grant, providing teachers with $500, a $500 grant each, because many of them had to go out of their own pockets to really build an office for themselves at home or provide for their students with something that they needed to be able to come online successfully.
Yes, and you are the youngest of the 6 candidates that are running for Dearborn Mayor. Do you consider that an advantage or disadvantage? And do you feel like this election would be more challenging, knowing that your opponents are maybe more experienced than older?
Yeah, so I like to define, I think it depends on who you are and how you look at age. I certainly think I bring a level of tenacity because of my age that is unmatched. But I'll say this about experience. I don't believe it matters how many years you have under your belt. I think what matters is what have you done with the years that you had? And I think that's the question we need to be asking all of our elected officials and all those running for office. What have you done in the years that you've had? And what do you plan to do for the city? And those are the 2 questions we really need to focus on. I might have had only 4 years at the State House, but in those 4 years, if you go to votehammoud.com/accomplishments, we have done so much. We've increased access for mental health services. We've worked with our district courts to expand the drug court. We've brought over $1 million in new resources for mental health programming. We've worked to eliminate COVID out-of-pocket costs for testing and treatment. We have, right now in Lansing, I actually am the lead Democrat on the state's biggest budget. It is $30 billion out of the state's $60 billion. And in that budget, we have learned that people tend to do things the same way year over year. Well, last year, we challenged how things were done, and we saved over $200 million annually in state taxpayer dollars. It's because we challenged the way things were done and we brought forth innovative solutions. And I think that mindset can do very well right here at the city in our own backyard.
So with you, it has nothing to do with age, I guess.
I mean, Mayor Guido, many believe Mayor Guido was a very successful mayor. Mayor Guido was 31 when he assumed office. If we are successful in this campaign cycle and we're elected to the mayorship, I'll be 32. So technically, I'd be slightly older than Mayor Guido, who many individuals loved and praised as a mayor.
That's good. So candidates want people to support them for their qualifications and for their ability to serve the city as a whole. Would you be concerned or worried that some people might think, because you are an Arab American candidate, to cater to only to your community? What do you say to these people?
I think we have shown over the last 4 years that we cater to all Dearbornites. I don't care your political affiliation. It doesn't bother me if you voted for me or didn't vote for me, and I don't care for your ethnicity or whatever it might be. Yes, the challenges that certain segments of our community, the challenges they face may differ, but our values are all one, and we are going to coalesce and bring the community together around these values. And that's how we're moving forward in this campaign. I'm not running to be the first Arab American mayor. I'm not running to be the first Muslim American mayor. I'm running to be Dearborn's mayor for all of Dearborn's residents. And that's the vision, that's the platform that we're pushing forth. And I think you can look to my last several years in office as history for how we will lead once we assume the mayorship.
So Mayor O'Reilly has led the city since 2007. And if you replace him, what's number one change would you like to see in Dearborn that Mayor O'Reilly hasn't done, and you'll have a role in it?
That is a great question. For me, all of the priorities are right up there at the top at number one. No one thing can really out-prioritize the other. When we announced in our kickoff video about the things that we wanted to tackle, we highlighted 5 areas. The first was lowering property taxes. The second was improving the delivery of city services. There are a lot of inefficiencies that we currently have within city departments, and we think we can improve on them. There are also a lot of ordinances that are outdated that we no longer need, that we need to eliminate. And so there are things that we can do to change our departments to be much more consumer service, customer service oriented. Third, we want to enhance the quality of life for our residents. That means tackling the air quality problems and the environmental issues. That means improving the quality of life for our seniors to make sure that they can stay independent if they just need a helping hand. Fourth is we want to help deliver more resources and support to our small businesses. We're a small business community and we want to see them thrive. And the fifth is making sure we have a transformative public safety model that works better for residents and better for our first responders. So those are the 5 buckets. And to anybody watching right now, if you go to votehammoud.com/survey, you can actually complete a survey that we put on our website. And we're the only candidate doing this. We're asking you, what is it within those buckets or outside of those buckets that you'd like for us to see or to prioritize? If you have any stories that you want to share, we are using the information you give us to inform our agenda. We're not telling you what you want us, we're not telling you what we want to see for the city. We're asking all the residents collectively, what is it that you'd like out of a mayor? And we're here to advocate and fight for it.
So what can you bring to the table other opponents can't?
I think that's a great question. I think we bring the ability to build strong teams because, again, you might be electing a mayor, but that mayor appoints all the directors in the city and they build a team at the city that you are going to have to work with day in and day out. And so we're going to bring an unmatched level of tenacity, of advocacy, of hard work, and the history that we have delivered and tackling the tough issues. We don't just make promises. We don't throw out words and policies that we think we can do. We actually tackle the tough issues and we take difficult stances. People might not agree with every policy I push forward, but people know over our years and respect enough that what we're advocating for because we believe it's the best possible situation or answer or solution for the city of Dearborn. And I think that is unmatched. And I think if you look at our credentials, if you look at our accomplishments, it speaks on that level. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to learn more, you can shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and I'm happy to schedule a personal phone call and have a conversation about what it is you'd like to see, any questions you have for me, and what we can do to earn your vote, because each and every single vote matters.
Definitely. We wish you the best of luck on that.
Thank you.
My last question, or your last message to the people for tonight, why should people vote for Abdullah Hammoud?
You know, Dearborn is home. And for anybody that knows me, I can't tell you how much I love this community. It's the community that provided my family with financial freedoms, with Social Security. And, you know, as a son of immigrant parents, as the second oldest of 5 siblings, as a newlywed who wants to grow their family in the city, I am incredibly invested in seeing our city succeed. But in order for us to succeed, there are hard challenges that we have to address that have faced us for far too long. And if we are unwilling to face those challenges, I do not believe Dearborn will go in a direction where it will best thrive. Our property taxes have gone up. Our water rates have gone up. We have lost thousands of members of our community who have moved to Canton and Livonia. And now more than ever, we need a leader at the helm of our city who can tackle these issues, who can bring a new sense of pride to our city. And that's what we're running for. We're running on a campaign that brings together all of Dearborn to the table around our shared values. It's about time that we stop dividing us as South, East, and West, or out of Black, Hispanic, and white. We all care about the same issues, and we need a leader who puts those issues at the forefront. And I am asking for your vote and for your support on August 3rd. And if you want to learn more, again, please visit votehammoud.com. Complete our survey at votehammoud.com/survey. If you want to just let us know what you'd like for us to tackle. And if you want to pledge your support to us, we would be honored and humbled by it. Go to votehammoud.com/pledge and complete a pledge card.
I want to thank you so much, Abdullah Hammoud, and I wish you the best of luck on your campaign. And you're young and you're ready for this campaign. So thank you so much for your time. And I just want to say to our viewers, you know, our voice or our power is our vote. So get out there and vote. And thank you so much and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hanan.
Thank you.